when you sit down across a table from someone new, there is always that inevitable moment.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. The pause.
Right. The conversation just pauses,
Mm-hmm.
and the spotlight suddenly swings right over to you,
Mm.
and they drop those 5 terrifying words.
Tell me about yourself.
Exactly. Tell me about yourself. And it is a moment that can make your mind just go completely blank. I mean, trying to summarize who you are on the spot is incredibly difficult, even in your native language.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard enough when you know all the words.
But when you're trying to answer that question in a language, you are still learning. I
Yeah.
mean, that takes the pressure to a completely different level.
It absolutely does. Because in that moment, you're managing a massive cognitive load. You're not just trying to think of the right vocabulary words. You are trying to project your actual identity across this linguistic barrier.
Yeah, you want them to really get you.
Exactly. You want the person on the other side of the table to understand your humor, your work ethic, your social energy. And if you lack the precise tools to articulate those things, you end up feeling trapped behind the language.
Trapped. Yeah, that is the perfect word for it.
Hmm.
And that feeling of being trapped is exactly what we are going to dismantle today. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
So glad to be here.
Today, our mission is to explore how to describe your personality in English. And since this deep dive is specially designed for English learners, we are intentionally going to maintain a deliberate, relaxed pace.
Yeah, we want to give you time to process.
Right. We're going to use clear, accessible vocabulary throughout the whole discussion today. We really want to explore the cognitive building blocks of how English speakers define themselves.
It really is about building a toolkit, isn't it?
It totally is. And you can use those exact same tools to share who you are with the world.
When we talk about personality in this context, we're basically referring to the fundamental traits that, dictate how you interact with the world around you.
Like what kind of person you are.
Right. Are you quiet? Do you thrive in large crowds? How do you approach a difficult task? Understanding how to express these concepts it's the key to making new friends or navigating a new workplace or simply just feeling like yourself when you speak English.
So let's start with the raw materials,
Yeah.
right? The vocabulary itself. Looking through our notes on language acquisition, there's this really fascinating psychological approach to learning these descriptive words.
Yeah, the contrast method.
Right. The recommendation is not to just memorize a random list of adjectives from A to Z. The source text suggests the most effective way to internalize personality traits is to learn them in pairs of direct opposites.
Which is so interesting.
It is. I mean, I understand the efficiency of learning 2 words at once, but why does the brain actually prefer this contrasting method over just, studying individual words?
Well, it fundamentally comes down to how human memory structures information. Our brains are essentially contrast machines.
Contrast machines, I like that.
Yeah, we understand the world by mapping boundaries. I mean, if you learn the word friendly entirely on its own, it's just an isolated concept floating out there in space.
Like a single data point.
Exactly. And it is so much harder for the brain to retrieve that word when it needs it. But when you learn opposites, you're creating a spectrum. You're telling your brain exactly where one idea ends and the opposite idea begins.
Which creates a mental anchor.
Right. A powerful mental anchor.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, learning vocabulary through opposites, it's kind of like looking at a color wheel. You understand the color white so much better when you compare it directly to black.
That's a great analogy.
Right. Knowing both extremes of the scale actually helps you figure out where you fit in. So let's look at the spectrum of human personality, starting with how we interact socially, like our social battery.
Ah, yes, the social battery.
The first pair of opposites we have here is shy and outgoing.
This is such a foundational pair for describing social orientation. So, shy describes a feeling of nervousness or hesitation when you're, navigating new social situations.
Right.
The notes actually give a highly evocative visual for this. Think of a little girl hiding behind her mother's legs when a stranger says hello.
Oh, we've all seen that. Or been that kid.
Right. She doesn't want to be the center of attention. She's observing from a safe distance. That is the physical manifestation of being shy.
And then on the complete other end of that social spectrum, we have outgoing. This is someone whose social battery actually recharges by interacting with others.
The total opposite.
Right. The classic example here is the person who can just sit down next to a total stranger on a city bus and just effortlessly strike up a conversation.
About the weather or the city or whatever.
Exactly. Anything at all. They actively seek out connection. They just love meeting new people.
Notice the vast difference in the direction of energy there. I mean, with shy, the energy is pulling inward for protection. With outgoing, the energy is, well, it's radiating outward to engage.
That's a really good point.
And by holding those two distinct physical images in your mind, hiding behind a parent versus chatting on a public bus, the English words representing them become deeply tied to visual concepts.
Which makes them much easier to recall later.
Exactly.
So socializing is one thing, but how we act when there is a task in front of us is a completely different side of our personality. This brings us to the traits that govern our output and our effort.
This is a big one for the workplace.
Huge. The next major pair is hardworking versus lazy.
Yeah, these are arguably the most critical adjectives to master if you're preparing for a job interview or maybe an academic setting.
Definitely want to get these right.
For sure, hardworking represents an active, sustained effort. It's the person who practices their English vocabulary every single day, or the student who meticulously finishes their homework.
Or the employee doing a great job at the office.
Exactly. It implies discipline.
Which means lazy is the absolute rejection of that discipline. It's the desire to avoid effort entirely.
Just wanting to do nothing.
Right. The mental image here is someone wanting to stay in bed, sleep, or just watch TV all day long. Now, everyone has lazy Sundays, right?
Oh, lazy Sundays are the best.
Where avoiding effort is the whole point of the weekend. But as a permanent personality trait, calling yourself lazy carries a pretty heavy implication in an English-speaking workplace, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. In English-speaking cultures, there's a very strong societal premium placed on productivity. Therefore, hardworking is universally seen as a high compliment.
While lazy is not.
Right. Lazy is viewed as a character flaw. Understanding the cultural weight of these opposites is honestly just as important as knowing their dictionary definitions.
That cultural context is fascinating. And it actually leads nicely into another pair that dictates our output. But this one is more in terms of tone rather than just effort.
Which pair is that?
Serious versus funny. We all know what funny means, right? Someone who tells jokes, finds the humor in situations, makes people laugh.
Like a comedian or just the funny friend.
Right. But serious isn't exactly the opposite of funny in a negative way. It just implies a different kind of focus.
That is a crucial distinction. Being serious does not mean you're angry or, lacking joy. It just means you prioritize focus and deep thought over lightheartedness in certain situations.
We have a really good example in the notes for this.
The doctor example, right?
Yes. A highly skilled doctor. Like when a surgeon is operating or a smart doctor is analyzing a really complex medical chart, you do not want them cracking jokes.
No, definitely not.
You want them to be intensely serious, focused entirely on the important task at hand.
Right. So a doctor might need a serious personality to excel in their environment, whereas someone else might need the opposite.
Which brings us to our final core pair of descriptive colors. Quiet versus talkative.
This pair relates heavily back to our first pair of shy and outgoing, but it focuses specifically on verbal output, how much you actually speak.
Right, the actual words coming out of your mouth.
Exactly. A quiet person simply does not talk a lot. They might be an excellent listener, or they might just prefer the internal world of reading a good book rather than, filling the air with words.
And talkative is the person who fills that air. The primary example here is a teacher.
Oh, a teacher has to be talkative.
They do. A teacher has to be inherently talkative because their entire profession revolves around verbally explaining concepts and answering questions and just talking all day long.
Right.
So looking at our full palette, we have our social traits like shy and outgoing, our effort traits like hardworking and lazy, our verbal traits like quiet and talkative.
Plus serious and funny.
Yes. We have the colors. But how do we actually paint a picture with them in everyday conversation?
Well, moving from isolated vocabulary words to practical communication requires learning grammatical formulas. You can think of these as sentence patterns.
Sentence patterns.
Okay. Once you understand the mechanism of the formula, you simply plug your chosen vocabulary word into the right slot, and you can confidently articulate who you are.
Let's break down the mechanics of these formulas, because the source outlines 3 specific patterns. Pattern 1 is the easiest, right? The most fundamental baseline.
Very simple.
It's simply the pronoun I, the verb am, and the descriptive word like I am friendly or I am hardworking. It is brief, it's direct, and it gets the point across instantly.
It is the architectural foundation of English identity statements. You are establishing a direct equation, Subject equals adjective. I am shy.
It leaves very little room for confusion,
Exactly.
which makes total sense. But then we introduce pattern 2, which seems slightly more complicated. This is a common stumbling block.
Yeah.
Pattern 2 asks the speaker to say, I am a plus the word plus person.
Right, like I'm a shy person.
Yeah. Now, as a learner, if pattern 1, I am shy, is perfectly correct and easy, why should I even bother with pattern 2? I mean, does adding the word person change the meaning, or is it just to show off?
It's definitely not about showing off. And it points to a very strict underlying rule in English grammar regarding countable nouns. Let's dissect the sentence. I am a shy person.
Okay, let's take it apart.
The structural core of that sentence is actually, I am a person. The word person is a singular noun that you can count. One person, two people.
Right, you can count them.
In English, you are generally not allowed to leave a singular countable noun floating in a sentence without an article acting as its anchor. You need that little letter A to anchor it.
Wait, I see. So the A does not belong to the adjective shy.
No, not at all.
The A belongs entirely to the word person. The adjective is just sliding in between them to provide extra detail.
That is exactly right.
You're fundamentally saying, I am a person. What kind of person? A shy person. So if a learner tries to say, I am shy person, their brain is focusing on the adjective, but they have completely forgotten to anchor the noun.
Yes. Omitting that A completely disrupts the grammatical balance. It's a very common trap. Your listener will still understand what you mean, but it instantly sounds, well, unpolished.
Mastering that small mechanical anchor, I am a friendly person, is what really makes your English sound natural.
Exactly.
So pattern 1 and pattern 2 give us the structure. But if I look at my own life, saying I am a talkative person feels, I don't know, a little too absolute.
Permanent.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talkative when I'm recording a deep dive, sure. But I'm extremely quiet when I'm reading a book. Very few human beings are just one thing 100% of the time.
Which is true.
Do we have a structural way to account for that flexibility?
That is precisely the function of pattern 3. Pattern 3 introduces nuance, specifically using the words very for all the time, or a little bit, for a small amount, or sometimes.
Oh, I like that.
Using these words lowers the stakes of the conversation because you are no longer committing to an absolute identity.
That makes it so much less intimidating. If I say, I am very outgoing, I'm signaling that this trait is incredibly strong. But if I use a little bit, it means this trait is only true in small amounts.
Right, or only in certain contexts. The source actually provides a wonderfully relatable example for this. Someone explaining, I am a little bit quiet in the morning, but very talkative after coffee.
I think we all know someone exactly like that.
Oh, for sure. That sentence perfectly illustrates why pattern 3 is essential. Human beings are deeply complex. By combining these patterns, you gain the linguistic flexibility to explain that complexity.
And these patterns apply to describing other people too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can use these exact same structures to describe the world around you. You can say, my brother is a lazy person, or my friend is very funny.
The mechanics of these patterns are so logical once you break them down. But as we know, navigating a new language is basically walking through a minefield of potential traps.
Oh, it really is.
Let's look at those traps. Because our source text warns us about some specific beginner mistakes that can completely change the intended meaning of a sentence.
Leading to some highly awkward situations.
Yes, the most glaring trap, and honestly the one that causes the most accidental embarrassment, is mistake 1. The confusion between the words boring and bored.
This is the biggest trap of all.
It's amazing how just one letter, one tiny phonetic ending, can completely change how the world sees you. So imagine a student is sitting in a waiting room with absolutely nothing to do, and they are tired of waiting.
Okay, picturing it.
If they want to express that temporary feeling to the person next to them, they might accidentally say, I am boring. Why is that such a disastrous mistake?
To understand why it's disastrous, we have to look at how English uses suffixes, the endings of words.
The suffixes, right?
They assign causality. When an adjective ends in ing, like boring, it is describing the source or the cause of a feeling. Think of a long, complicated lecture. It is boring. It causes boredom in the room.
Okay, so the lecture is the source.
Right. So if you point to yourself and say, I am boring, you are telling the listener that you are the source of boredom. You are literally announcing that your personality is not fun and people do not like talking to you.
Wait, really? So saying I am boring instead of I am bored is almost like accidentally insulting yourself in front of a new friend.
It really is. You want to say, I have nothing to do, But instead you are saying, please avoid me, I have a terrible personality.
That is wild. So how does the ed suffix change that mechanism?
Adjectives ending in ed, like bored, describe the receiver of the feeling. The boring lecture makes the student feel bored. It's a temporary internal state caused by an outside factor.
Okay.
It has absolutely nothing to do with your personality. So if you're sitting in that waiting room with nothing to do, the grammatically and socially correct phrase is, I am bored, ending with ed.
That is a massive realization. ing describes the thing causing the feeling. Ed describes the person receiving the feeling.
Exactly. A movie is exciting, so I am excited.
My personality is not boring. I am just currently bored. Understanding that completely demystifies the rule. Let's look at mistake 2, which involves verb choice.
Ah, have versus am.
Yes. Students sometimes say things like, I have shy or I have friendly. I know from studying other languages that sometimes feelings are treated like objects you possess. You have hunger. It makes sense a learner would try to translate that directly.
It totally makes sense. Your brain is attempting to apply the rules of your native language to a completely new system. But English approaches identity from a fundamentally different philosophical angle.
How so?
In English, you do not possess an adjective. Shyness is not an object you keep in your pocket. It's not something you own.
So you don't have it.
Right. It treats these traits as an active state of being. Therefore, you must always use the verb to be. You cannot have friendly. You embody friendliness. You are friendly.
So it must be, I am shy.
Exactly. I am shy. I am friendly. Recognizing that English requires you to equate yourself with the trait will eliminate that error entirely.
State of being, not possession. Got it. And mistake 3 brings us right back to pattern 2. We touched on this, but the source reiterates it because it's so common, missing the A.
Yes, the error of saying, I am friendly person instead of I am a friendly person.
Mm-hmm.
When you are focusing so hard on pronouncing the new word, it's incredibly easy to drop that small article.
But as we discussed, without it, the structural integrity of the sentence just falls apart. It takes a lot of conscious effort to remember that anchor. How does a learner actually get better at this?
Well, the source provides some very practical advice here. The best way to get better is to physically practice. You cannot just read these words silently, you have to speak them out loud.
Right. Because your vocal cords, your tongue, they all need to learn the physical choreography of producing these English sounds.
Precisely. When you physically say, I am a hardworking person out loud, you are building muscle memory. Over time, that A anchor will start feeling like a natural rhythm.
Building that muscle memory is the key. So today we reviewed the journey from learning basic opposite words, like shy and outgoing, to forming full sentence patterns.
And avoiding some highly embarrassing mistakes along the way.
Exactly. And as you practice, remind yourself that it is okay to be shy, or serious, or outgoing. Everyone has a different personality, and you are special just the way you are.
I love that. These words are just tools to share your unique self.
They really are. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a slightly deeper provocative thought based on our source material today.
Ooh, what is it?
The source teaches us how to describe our personality in English. But here's something to think about. When you learn to say, I am a talkative person, or I am a little bit shy in a brand new language, do you feel like your personality actually changes when you speak English compared to your native language?
Oh, wow. That is a fascinating question.
Right. Does a new language give you the chance to be a slightly different version of yourself? It is something to mull over while you practice your sentences out loud.
I really like that idea.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Remember to keep practicing out loud, and don't be shy about making mistakes. We will catch you on the next one.